Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to go over a solo queue game of Chovy'S Corki versus Talon. Well, this would be a good video to go over for a few reasons. First, I know a lot of you guys struggle with playing like scaling champions in solo queue, and also Corki has been kind of nerfed recently. So he's kind of like playing on hard mode, and also Corki versus Talon it's not optimal, we'll put it that way. I think it's a pretty difficult matchup. I think you can bully it sort of early, but if you make one mistake, you kind of just die. So let's see how the game goes. So starting off, opted for the longsword refillable. I think that's kind of interesting. Honestly, I'm not too sure what the best is. I mean, if Chovy built longsword refillable, maybe that is the best. Personally, I probably would have built corrupting pot or maybe a Doran's item, and that's mainly because I think like that gives you either extra sustain or the extra max HP to work with to avoid an all-in. So this is certainly greedier, but I think if you know you can get away with this, then I think it's quite good. Now, looking at these runes, I'll tell you something straight away. The fact that he has MR means that he thought, in Champ Select at least, that he was versus Silas. And I think that's a very reasonable assumption to make. Obviously, you expect Talon to be jungle and Silas to be mid these days. You don't see very many Silas jungles. And also, I think the reason he probably picked Corki is thinking he was versus Silas. Corki's actually pretty decent versus Silas. It's one of the few champs you can actually beat in lane because of Corki's E. Allows him to trade quite well into these like short range melee champs. Not all of them. A lot of them have like very strong extended trades, but Silas is one that Corki can actually beat. So the runes, they're pretty stock standard. You can just copy them if you want. Although the one thing I would say is if you are versus a champion like Talon, you would probably take Resolve secondary with bone plating, and I think Chovy would have taken that if he knew he was versus Talon. But this overall is definitely the greedier page, and again, if you know you can get away with it, then you can go for that. So Talon level 1 is actually quite weak. At level 2, Talon becomes sort of strong, but at level 1, you can actually bully him quite a lot. And there's a few things, if you've watched my laning guide, you'll probably like realize this quite early, but wave control will be extremely important in this matchup because Talon has extremely high all-in potential. So having the wave on your side of the wave, or having the wave on your side of the lane will be very, very important. So I think you can see here, Chovy's taking quite a lot of care not to push this, and yeah, like most of the time when you're playing a Ranger's melee, you would want to crash like 3 waves, but Corki is just so weak in the early game that a lot of the time versus even melee champions, you kind of just like want to have the wave on your side so that you can just like farm in peace and scale. Because Corki is just like so weak in lane for the most part. Now, when Talon uses his Q, his W, that is a window that Corki can look to punish. So you can see just looking for some Q orders. Without Talon's W, he is like pretty weak. I'm actually not sure what the cooldown is on Talon's W. I think it's maybe like 8 seconds, or it could be longer, like 10. I'm not totally sure, but either way, it's a significant window that you can look to punish with either your E or your Q. I think that was sort of interesting there. I think he knew that if Talon like went on him, he wouldn't be able to get the kill because he's still full HP. So he's able to just take a trade. Oh, thank you for the follow, by the way. I wasn't streaming, but I had Streamlabs open. So, there you go. Yeah, so basically just singing the lane. I was actually just checking in case I'd gone live by accident. So yeah, I got a little bit derailed there, but you can see at the moment the main thing that's happening is that Corki is being very careful to keep this wave in a position where he can punish. Also there, very nice punish on the Talon cooldown, so that's really nice. Like, I think at the moment there's nothing really crazy that's going on. This is just like nice fundamentals of cooldown punishment and wave control. So I think like this point is definitely something that you guys can replicate. This is something I want to bring up like a lot. So I see not many people out of high elo do this, but it's like absolutely worth it to, if you want to keep this lane state, which like in this sort of matchup you definitely do, you really want to sacrifice HP to make this happen. If you're against a good player that knows this is going to happen, especially if they have mana, like Talon doesn't have much left, but you actually see them wait here and then they'll force you off, you'll lose HP and you have to go back. So that's kind of just like a thing you'll learn to recognize, is that a lot of the time people can just like pull the wave if it's not big enough and set up a freeze. And so this does a couple things. I think like if he had let the wave crash, like he can push back and potentially deny Talon the next wave, but it's only a potential, right? So like potentially you can dive that wave if Talon runs all the way top and you have time to push it in, but most likely if Talon just comes back, you can't really deny anything. On the other hand, this is a guaranteed denial of a wave if Talon even if Talon comes here, he's going to lose some of these creeps because it's very difficult for him to farm them this far up. So in this sort of situation where you can't really punish the roam that well because you're playing Corki, you don't have high wave clear or good roaming in the early game. So freezing can be very, very nice. You can see just by his HP and mana that Talon actually did go for the base, and Corki denies Talon the full wave. This is very, very important, particularly when you're against champions that spike very hard at level 6, as if you can manage to hit level 6 before them, oftentimes that'll be the difference between dying and not dying. I'm sure you guys have had many times, if you're level 5 and like the enemy assassin hits level 6 first, you normally just get dived or you just die. So if you can keep that XP lead, it's very, very nice. Now Talon managed to pick up a solo kill onto the Volibear jungle, which does put Talon a bit ahead compared to where he should be, but there's nothing Chovy can really do about this. Again, like Corki just lacks agency in the early game, but does manage to come over, use his mid lane priority. I'll actually go back and show you guys this. So because Talon, well, I'll show you, there's actually quite a lot of stuff going on here. Okay, so first off, Talon could come to this wave, but it's pretty far up, so there's like, it's sort of hard because he's a melee champion, right? Talon goes to contest the Volibear because he knows Volibear is a free kill without the flash. So Talon gets that kill. During the meantime, though, like Corki is still punishing. There really isn't much more Chovy can do here. Again, like it just comes back to Corki is not a champion with agency in the early game. You kind of just have to let your teammates fend for themselves, and it's really important that you use that time they're fending for themselves to like make sure you scale like a monster, because like if you look at the game state right now, his bot, top, and jungle are all losing, and he's the only one doing well. So you really, you know, there is some like investment here of your team, especially the jungle will probably fall behind if you're playing Corki, but you will make up for it in the late game. So here, if you actually look on the map, yeah, I have my camera in the right place. If you look on the map, and as you just saw before, that wave is crashing, which means Talon should kind of catch this. But Talon thinks that he can just come to this fight. That being said, if this fight goes badly, like, okay, if Talon comes here and gets a kill, it's like good, right? But it's you're still losing that entire wave, so it's not as good as it should be. On the other hand, if this fight goes badly and Talon doesn't get a kill, he just lost a giant wave worth of golden XP. So I think this is inherently kind of risky, and honestly, I probably wouldn't have done it. I think Talon can recognize here that he does not have flash and he does not have ignite. So he doesn't really have any pressure. Graves actually flashed in there and still died, but that was a really big mistake out of Talon, and I think that's going to make this lane quite a bit easier. I think Corki is going to be up almost a full level now. Actually interested to see what he buys. Okay, so we got the Warhammer and the tier, just the standard, nothing too strange here. Thought he was actually going to buy a bit more defensive stats, but I think because he's so far ahead of Talon at the moment that he kind of feels safe. Actually, you can see that, like, even if Talon like plays aggressively on the wave, he's actually getting punished by Corki, which, you know, it's a bit sad for the state of how this game's going for Talon at least. Now here will be interesting. Not sure if he'll freeze this wave or clear it. I'm actually curious. Okay, so opts to freeze it. I think there were a couple of choices here, and I'll explain why I wasn't sure. So Talon still has enough resources that he can roam, at least in HP and mana, but he doesn't have ult, flash, or ignite, so he is also missing a lot of resources. If you wanted to really prevent Talon from roaming here, you could clear this wave and start pushing the next one. But I think the reason he didn't do it is if you look at your side lanes, like they're all full HP, and again, Talon is missing like these key resources like the ult, ignite, and flash. The Talon's roam is not super strong at the moment, so I think that's why he feels kind of safe freezing. It could be for another reason, which would be that he's scared of ganks, but I don't really think so because he has flash and W. Honestly, I'm not 100% sure on the reasoning, but I do think it's most likely that he identified that Talon was lacking a lot of resources and can just freeze the wave and not really get punished by Talon roaming. The Talon wants to go for a base here, does have a couple options, could fast push the wave, but I think... Oh, actually, is going to fast push the wave. Okay, is going to fast push the wave. Yeah, kind of like it. I think if you... There's one kind of dangerous thing. Again, I'll show you guys here. So what you could do here is you could leave the wave here, and eventually it will slow push into the Talon. But the problem with this is that if you don't push the wave and Talon bases and comes back, Talon will probably have a pretty significant item advantage while your wave is building to him. And that can be very scary, especially if Talon hits level 6, where this wave is like outside his tower, and Talon has a level advantage. It could be very, very like problematic for Corki. So I think pushing this wave and just looking to base is probably what Corki's going to do, but let's actually see, because I'm not totally sure. Okay, so gonna stay, maybe push one more in base or one more and stay on the map. Actually really curious because I'm not totally sure what to do in this situation. I feel like I would have based there, so I guess that's incorrect because, you know, Chovy's obviously quite a bit better than me. Let's see, I guess he felt safe pushing this wave, and now does he base here or keep pressuring? Talon's still not 6. Okay, so I think what happened here is he recognized that he was so far ahead in levels over the Talon that he can actually stay in lane, and he's going to be, I think, at level 7 on this wave while Talon is still level 5. So I think I underestimated here how much of an XP lead Corki had, and obviously Chovy realized that he was so far ahead in XP that he's actually going to be able to, like, yeah, pretty much take away this guy's health bar again before he even has to do anything. Probably will go for the base here, though, because he has no mana. Yep, okay. So that was very nicely played by Chovy in a macro sense. I definitely would not have realized how far ahead I was there, or how ahead he was there. That was really cool. Use that, like, that XP advantage to kind of punish and greed for a bit more gold, and builds a slightly bigger lead off it. Interestingly, he picks up the chain vest. Now that is quite strange. That's another thing I definitely would have done, but I think it does make sense. If you look at this game, their only AP threat is the Silas, and he is completely useless. And that's actually for a couple of reasons. Not only is he really far behind, but also Silas in team fights will never get in range of Corki, or, you know, it shouldn't happen if you play well. But the only threats onto Corki are going to be AD. And so buying this chain vest is actually quite good, I think, because you can build it into Death's Dance, and I think it is probably better to just sit on a chain vest than it is to build like Ninja Tabi, for example. But we'll see. I'll see if he builds any more armor. I'm imagining he's not going to, though. What happened here? I missed something. Talon went somewhere and died. Okay, so Corki came back to lane. Sorry, I was talking about other stuff. Corki came back to lane. Talon came down here and died. So while Talon's dead, Corki is free to just push this wave. And kind of probably just like pink ward a bush or something, or maybe he's gonna hit the tower. He's gonna hit the tower. I guess he knows he doesn't need to pink ward anything right the second, because Talon was dead and the Silas is really weak, so he's not scared of ganks. He probably will look to put his pink ward down sort of soon, though, maybe after this wave. And that'll make him a little bit safer, although he's just not really under threat from anything. Again, like, he should know now that Talon doesn't have ult, and the Silas is like so insanely weak that there's probably no pressure onto him at all. The only thing he really needs to be careful here is actually like conserving his mana. If he runs out of mana, like, Talon could maybe threaten him, but until that happens, there's no real threat. You can see one thing he's doing here is he's not really using his Q. The reason is that's like, I'm actually gonna hold on a sec. So he's not really using his Q. Costs a lot of mana. Obviously, it's like, does a lot of damage, but it's not very efficient damage-wise compared to the R. And I'm actually going to show you guys something here, because this is something that I think happens at a high level that you can abuse. So when this sort of situation happens, when the opponent realizes they're just going to dodge, like they're playing to dodge a skill shot here, right? Like, I think if you're, say, let's just say you're at a challenge, or no, we'll go like a diamond level or master level. If this sort of situation happens, what normally happens is the Corki fires his rocket, Talon dodges it, and that's kind of the exchange. But the higher you go and the more you realize, like, the only option your opponent has here is to dodge, you can actually just hold the spell and let them juke themselves to death. So you can see here, Chovy is not even trying to throw the R. He basically just went for orders on him twice in a row, then hits him with the R after he starts emoting. So that was like a tiny little exchange there, but I actually think it was quite big. I think Talon might have given up on the game, actually. But yeah, what I basically wanted to say is this happens a lot when you play champs like Syndra, for example. Like, hitting the Syndra E, oftentimes people just juke themselves to death. LeBlanc Chain is another one where that's the case. Where sometimes, like, people are just like juking back and forth, and you can actually just hold it for like a second or two and then throw it, and then it'll basically just hit them like that. And also it allows you to hit kind of like just auto attacks while that's kind of happening, while they're juking themselves to death like that. The Talon gets chunked out again. Corki, very nice CS, 90 CS at 9 minutes. And to be honest, I don't think he's done anything special CS-wise this game. Basically, he's just had favorable bases. I guess actually the one special thing that he has done this game is he stayed in lane a lot longer than is normal. And he could do that because he recognized really well like what things kind of led to that. You know, like the XP lead really allowed him to stay in lane longer than he should be if the matchup were, or rather if the, yeah, I guess if the matchup were going evenly as opposed to like how it should be going. So I would say that Chovy's like base timing is one of the best in the world, if not the best. I think he's like, well, like people think of Chovy for being really good at CSing, right? And that is certainly true. Chovy, I think, is the best CSer in the world, but it's like what things actually lead him to having more CS. And I think like base timings and like wave understanding is like a really big part of that. I'd be pretty confident in saying he's like the best at stuff like this. I'm not sure if that means he's the best. Okay, that Talon's definitely given up. Not sure if that means he's the best laner in the world. I still think Rookie is kind of the best laner in the world. But it's definitely a different style. Like, Rookie is the kind of guy. Rookie's my favorite player, by the way. I'll say this before I unleash my Rookie bias. But I think Rookie's the kind of player that's like gonna dominate your mid like 80 CS to 30, whereas Chovy's more like the guy that's gonna dominate the enemy mid like 110 CS to 90. You know, Chovy's gonna have the overall greater amount of gold, but the lead compared like between him and the enemy mid laner is going to be smaller. Whereas I think Rookie is not. He's not as like. He's not going to have as high gold, but he's just going to absolutely smash the enemy mid laner. And it's actually really cool to see that there are like still big like style differences at the top level, because I think a lot of people think that as the game gets like more and more solved, and it becomes just one play style is clearly superior. But it's not really the case, and there's actually a lot of like high level players that still have very different play styles. So Corki bases, picks up the package, just TPs on the map and picks up a nice kill. They probably actually, it does look like Talon is kind of playing the game again because he got a second kill somewhere. Or maybe he already had that second kill. Can't remember. But yeah, so one thing that's nice about Corki package is that it gives you really good tempo on the map. You can always base, and you can either come out of base with the package movement speed, or you can just use it to package to fights. But basically, it does allow you to farm a bit quicker. Essentially, you can clear a wave and then package towards something. You can come out of base faster. Basically, in all kind of senses of the word, it gives you more tempo on the map, and you can kind of convert that tempo into gold, into XP, into pressure, basically whatever you want. Pressure is kind of or rather tempo is the name of the game. Did we kill this guy? Oh yeah, he does. I was like so confused what that spell was, by the way, but it was Renata ult. Should take away the Raptors here, I imagine. Yep. Ooh, actually, Silas Pantheon also confused at what happened there. Ooh, does he die here or does he go down? Okay, gets the kill. So yeah, I think if the Silas hadn't been there, definitely would have taken the Raptors. I actually wonder if he will. I think he can greed for this wave because Talon's dead. Although I don't think he knows about the Nautilus. He doesn't have mana for W, or he does in a second. Okay, so again, very greedy. But manages to get away with a 10 CSPM. Managed to see how far back he walked there because he noticed the Graves was missing, and then the Graves ends up like diving his tower to try ult him. So that was actually quite good presence of mind from Chovy there. I'm not sure if I would have realized that in the game or not. The Graves was missing. There's a lot going on there. It's really impressive when top players kind of realize that in the moment. Picks up the Stork shoes. I think that's very, very nice. He's the solo AP on his team. I guess Renata's AP, but she doesn't really do damage. Actually, I guess Volleyball is sort of AP too. But again, he's like going to be building mainly tank, and most of the enemy team can't really build MR. Okay, let's see what happened here. I'll explain why this happened. I wasn't really looking. Okay, so basically, everyone based here, and the bot side of the map is kind of dark. So you have to be quite careful here where you're regaining the bot side vision after a base, because it's the enemy's turn to kind of pressure something. So here, like, I think it's sort of hard because if you pass straight to this tower, there's a high chance you get dived, which I think is why he didn't go to that wave under the tower, and he thought taking the Gromp would be the safer play, and I think it is. But ultimately, I think the way he pathed afterwards was sort of badly. Like, he's pathing directly to the minion wave. So maybe he didn't realize he was in danger here, but I think there's like you can reasonably assume that there are people here, given that there was like a pink ward, and we saw the Talon before, and Volibear hasn't cleared this area yet. I guess he didn't expect Nautilus to be there, and maybe he could have lived against just the Talon. But that is a like momentary kind of like lapse in focus, I guess, that causes this death, and it actually is very, very punishing. Like, if you look at this, there's a huge amount of gold that goes onto Talon. Who got this Gromp? I actually think Talon got the Gromp as well, right? Let's have a look. Are you sure? Okay, so Talon got the Gromp. Talon got 990 gold there. And also Corki loses out on the farm of the bot wave. So even though you might think this is just like a 900, let's just go on 900. I guess it's more like 1,000. We'll call it a 1,000 gold swing towards Talon. not only is that gold given to the enemy team, but also you lose out on all the XP from like 2 bot waves. You lose all the gold from 2 bot waves. You probably could have farmed another like camp in this time, like that wolf camp. So that death is probably more like 1400 or yeah, probably 1400 gold worth of like or gold given over to the enemy team, or rather a 1400 gold swing. So it's very, very punishing, and it's something you have to be like super, super careful of, because it's those like little mistakes that can like let the enemy back in the game. They have a pretty big lead, right? So it's pretty unlikely that the enemy team comes back in the game, but not out of the question. Here, I'll show you guys something. So after this, normally Corki would go straight bot, but I think after his bot lane dies on the mid wave, he just goes to catch mid instead, and also that is safer, because if you look at that bot side right now, there's actually no vision, so if he passed there and then like Talon comes over the wall or something, he could probably die. Talon's like very strong at the moment, so he kind of can't go there yet. I wonder if he'll try go bot when his bot lane spawns. I feel like he takes one more mid wave and then probably looks to go to the side lane. Because Talon's just gonna all in him. Yeah, okay, so you can see if that had happened on the bot wave, like if he had gone there without vision, that he would have died. Like the only reason Talon couldn't kill him there was basically because he was like, he had too much space to cover. I'm not sure if that's the right word. Like Talon couldn't reach him in time, basically. They're still not going to this bot wave. I think probably could go to it, honestly, but there's like a fight happening, right? So you probably can't leave at the same time. I think after this fight finishes up, though, he probably will look to go bot. Actually taxing this wave quite a bit. I think it's fine, or good rather. I think like Corki's definitely the hardest scaling champion on this team. Obviously you can't tax too much or your team might AFK, but you know, if you can, it's good. Now here is kind of an interesting macro decision. I'll show you why. So first off, the waves for red team are in pretty bad spots. I guess you can't really see because this covers it, but the wave is like right on this Chromecast thing. So that means the bot wave is sort of good for red side, but the top wave is quite bad. But the reason I would say in solo queue you can't really go to these other waves is because like when your team is like low on HP like this, if you just leave and go to a side lane without TP, honestly your team's just going to go to die. Or is going to die. I think if you were in a competitive game, you probably would answer the waves here, but I think in solo queue, you do gotta like somewhat play to your teammates, you know, like you can't trust them to make good decisions, essentially. So at some point, even though this is very like unoptimal, is that the right word? Unoptimal? Suboptimal, sorry. From a macro sense, you kind of just feel like you have to do it. One nice thing about it is, though, it's like it's not like the enemy team is pushing the side lanes, so right now they're just like even in this ARAM state. Neither team's really gaining anything. After this tower falls, though, I imagine people are going to spread back out. There's a lot of jungle camps to farm currently, so it'd be good to put those on cooldown, and it'd also be nice to push these waves back out. So they're going to grab the Herald, deny the objective bounty, and I guess Chovy'S going to run straight to top wave. Looks like Herald's secured, so you don't really need to be here anymore. That's one thing that I also see quite a lot of low elo players mess up, is like overcommitting to an objective. So it's very clear that that objective is secured, and you can instead use this time to look to pressure this top tower, push this wave in. But you do have to be careful though, because like especially on like Baron and stuff, oftentimes it is good just to make sure you secure the Baron. Or was this guy dead? Because like, oh, I think he's dead, right? Yeah. Okay. So. I'm actually not totally sure what happened here. I think it was just greedy pathing. Yeah, I think here, if you walk the safe way, you're probably fine. But, you know, I probably would have died here too. But if you played perfectly, you could probably avoid it. What was I saying before? I actually kind of lost it. You don't remember, guys. You might have to remind me. What was I saying? If I remember it, I'll say it again. But building the death dance now, I'm pretty sure. So that's what that chain vest is going into. I think that's pretty nice. Also, since we are bringing it up again, the Sork Shoot instead of Ninja Tabi, I quite like it. I don't really like Ninja Tabi this game because like you're not going to be getting auto attacked that much. It's mainly just like AD damage, but not so much auto attacks. You know, it's going to be like Grave spells, Talon spells, but not many auto attacks. So armor is going to be better than like the Ninja Tabi. And also, I think Sork Shoes are so valuable on Corki that the Ninja Tabi is kind of not really worth it. Oh yeah, actually now I remember what I was saying before. So about the like overcommitting to objectives, but particularly when it's like Baron, you do need to be quite careful because like, yeah, you could try squeeze out like a little bit more efficiency, but oftentimes you should just like fully commit to the Baron because like if you get the Baron, like your chances of winning the game are so high, it's not really like worth sacrificing that little bit of risk for a little more efficiency. But especially in the other objectives like dragons, heralds, etc., it can be quite worth it to try be more efficient if you think the thing is the objective is secured. Holding on the top side of the map here, I imagine going to take all 3 of these camps, or is he actually going to go to drag? Okay, so Zaya wants the red, and I think maybe he thinks he can't go top, although I actually think he could, because he has TP. So I'm not totally sure why this happened, because I feel like you could catch that top wave there, and then TP to this fight. Maybe he values his TP, or he thinks a fight is going to happen right now. Let's kind of see how this plays out, because I think that was probably a mistake. Okay, that was crazy. Gets a lot of poke though. Nautilus is like 1 HP after that, so the fight's already in a really good spot from his kind of play at the start. If a champ, oftentimes if you can chunk out the supports, it actually makes a very big difference, because a lot of the supports are going to be the engage tool for their teams. And so if they can't really engage, although Nautilus managed to engage there somehow, it can be very, very difficult for the enemy team to actually contest an objective. Now, if you go back a bit, you can see the top wave actually did die on that tower, and I think Corki could have collected that and then TP'd to the fight. But I suppose he just wanted to be a little bit safer and not give the enemy team any window back into the game. I guess if you made either decision there, it is kind of fine as long as you fully commit to whichever decision you make. This is quite psychopathic, but it does work out. I do like that. I'm not sure he knew where Talon was there, but yeah, I mean, you got away with it. It looks like just coming to the drag, and I think now it's getting quite hard for the enemy team to come back. Like the enemy team, oh, there's Talon. The enemy team's like not really in the game by any means, but particularly if they get more mountain drags, it becomes like really, really difficult for a team that is so AD heavy to kind of have relevance, because like we just look at how much armor is on that team already. Like oh wait, that guy died. The dragon, even the dragon passive, but especially the dragon soul, will make such a big difference. The guy's super dead, I think. He's actually living a long time though. Probably needs to get out of here and just base, I think. Oh, he's gonna greet it. Okay, it worked out. Yeah, I guess he still had the flash, so it actually wasn't very risky at all. And also that guy was 1-7, so I guess he didn't need it. Oh. Honestly, I think that's completely fine. And the reason is that Nautilus got the shutdown, and also Nautilus invested flash. And it's not like red team loses anything on the map at the moment. So I don't think he died on purpose, but I think like as far as death goes, this is like basically the best death you can possibly get. So I think it's like completely fine. Like he was going to base there anyway, you know, it's just a good base. The only like bad thing would have been there is if they gave up Baron for it, but like obviously they're strong enough that's not going to happen, and it was a 1-for-1 anyway. Coming out of base, don't think the package is up, can't see it on the minimap. Okay, definitely not up. As TP, okay, so TP is top. I think the reason he did this is his team's already hitting Baron, so he needs to kind of be on the map pressuring. Does push the top wave first, I think that's fine. The enemy team doesn't seem like they're contesting. They are moving in now, but it looks like it's too late. Now here's something that I think a lot of people mess up as well. So when you're kind of on these objectives, you have like there's like two things you can do. You can either DPS or you can like look to zone and poke. So it does somewhat depend on what champ you are. Like if you're a champ like LeBlanc, you don't really have the option of DPS because your DPS is so low. But if you're a champion like say Cassio, again, you don't really have, I guess like Cassio has a lot of DPS, but can also zone off people like with her ult and stuff. But particularly on a champ like Corki, you have so many options because you can poke people off and you have like very strong poke, or you could hit this Baron. But here, like there's already enough DPS on this Baron that this is going to die in time. And another thing is that if Corki walks in here to DPS, he actually kind of puts himself in a pretty scary spot, because like if he wants to be safe, he pretty much has to be all the way back here, like behind the Volibear. And he might not get there in time before like this Nautilus and stuff come in. I actually like the position he's taking right now, where he just pokes off the Stylus and he keeps himself in a place with lots of room. Like he can go up. He has all this space to play in. Does have to be kind of careful of this Talon, but he's close enough to his team, and looks like they're just going to pick that up. So W's forward, he knows like the only threat is Talon, and Talon was already shown like above him, so actually Wing towards Nautilus is probably safer even than just like holding your W, because it's like creating more distance between you and Talon. To get the Baron, there wasn't really too much to that. I think it was just Honestly, it was still good decision making. Like there wasn't really that much of a fight, but I think the positioning for him in the team fight was, or like before the team fight, I guess, was pretty well played or well thought out, or whatever you want to use. So I'm not sure if is this GG right here. Okay, it looks like it's not GG yet, but I think it is like basically GG. Don't see really any way that they come back here. So it's probably just like a little bit of trolling going on, but you know, let's wait and see. Let's see. Yeah, okay, landing a lot of poke. Where's oh yeah, Corki's there. Might go back and have a look at this fight. Okay, yeah, let's actually just like rewind this for a sec. So the way this fight starts off, Silas is the only one chunked, but for the most part, like everyone on the enemy team is full HP. So here the main like threats you have are pretty much the Talon, maybe the Graves. Silas doesn't really matter, and your tools to avoid these are the flash and the W. So you've got to be quite careful with how you use your flash and the W. So like here, I think the reason he W'd was because like of this Nautilus hook and the Silas Q, but I actually think that his positioning here was quite greedy. Like you have a lot of range on Corki, especially when you're building let's say like when you have a lot of lifesteal, you can afford to play further up because like you're a lot tankier, right? But in this sort of situation, I think it would kind of be better for him to play a bit further back and poke until they get a bit lower, because what happens here is he's forced to W, and that kind of limits his options a lot for the rest of the fight. When Talon flashes in here, he's kind of lucky that Talon didn't go on him, because I think he probably would have died. Actually, he has a lot of armor. Maybe he wouldn't have died. So Nautilus ults him. Manages to W again, but he's sort of low on HP. Looks like he is going to manage to get out, or maybe Talon's going to run him down. Oh look, well, Nautilus is going for him. Just kill him, right? Yeah, that guy's kind of trolling. Ruler not the best Nautilus in the world. It does look like this is a one fight overall. Okay, so one fight overall. I think it was a little messy. Maybe could have played it a little bit better, but like ultimately it turns out pretty well, and I think he played it probably like a 90% optimally. So that's, you know, that's probably better than I would have played it. So yeah, pretty impressive overall. Gonna base here. Probably needs to, I think he would have, oh, he's actually gonna stay. Can he kill this guy? Wow, okay. I was gonna say like he has no mana, can he even kill him? But has enough mana for the rocket, so does manage to kill him. That was pretty funny. I think the game's mostly over from this point, so we'll probably just close it out. I'm just going to skip through because I think the rest of this is most likely just going to be more trolling. Let's see, is this a fight? I guess we'll watch this fight. He's playing his range quite well. Another thing that I see a lot of people do is they like... So your HP only matters if there are actually still threats on you. So if you look at these champs here, like no one here really has threat. Like... Nautilus has already used his cooldowns, Graves is too low to do anything, and the Zeri's too far away. So even though you're half HP here, you might as well be full HP. There's no threat on you at the moment. And this is one thing I see a lot, is when people get, particularly when the enemy team uses cooldowns and they get low, but then they don't realize that because those cooldowns are used, your HP bar doesn't really matter anymore. So in this sort of situation, even though he's extremely low on HP, he can still be quite aggressive with his ult and with his movements because there isn't much threat on him until his front line dies, until Talon gets here. I guess when Talon gets here, it definitely changes, but that was still good. He managed to get like a pretty good amount of poke in there, even though he was very low on HP. I actually think he wins this. I don't think Silas is going to go for that. Let's skip forward again. I think this is more trolling. Okay, I actually did die, but... I think I'm just going to call it there, guys. It looks like the rest of it is just... Is this a team fight? No, he's dead in this team fight. There's nothing else really to this game. Yeah, he just like package TPs and kills the Talon. Okay, so I guess that is basically it for this video. I think the things to take away from this game, I think there was some really intelligent wave control in the early game. Like, honestly, the wave control was very impressive this game. Particularly around the base timings was very, very nice. I think other things you can kind of take away from this game are more like macro things, because again, when I talked about like my farming guide, I talk about like what's optimal, right? Like I talk about if your team is playing perfectly, like what you should do with the sideways and stuff like that. But the reality is this like does not happen in solo queue. And I think like this game is a good example, and one of the reasons why Chovy'S is so good is because he's extremely good at adapting to like the situation, knowing exactly how much farm he can get and like when he kind of needs to commit and pressure things. So hopefully you like this, guys. I do actually like doing these videos quite a lot. I feel like I can cover like a lot of topics just as they come up without kind of having to pre-plan them. And I think that's really good because it allows me to kind of show you an example as it happens rather than like having a concept and then having to like find an example for it. So yeah, if you guys liked it, go ahead and like and subscribe. I'll see you next time.